Are you ready for an inspiring half hour about discovering, developing, and living your greatness and building your life around what you do best? This is it. Welcome to the Greatness Zone, practical conversations to help you live a bigger, bolder, and better life. And here's your host, author, speaker, workplace, and life coach, Jay Forte.
Hey everyone, welcome. It is great to be with you. Tonight we talk about journaling our way to greatness. So what if you were able to get quiet, and in that quiet you were able to visualize what you really want for your life? The quality of your work, your relationships, your health, success as you define it, and overall contentment. There's so much evidence that supports that our minds have a direct ability to influence our health and well-being. Dr. Esther Sternberg shares in her book, The Balance Within, The Science Connecting Health and Emotions, that as we intentionally change our outlook to be more positive, we actively and positively influence our health and our wellness. To get to that point of being positive in a noisy and distracting world, that takes effort and that takes focus. And as we'll hear tonight, one of the ways to get there is through journaling. Now, everyone has his or her ideas about what journaling is. In fact, I use journaling in an entrepreneurship course that I teach to college students so that they become more self and world aware. So relatively few of my students have ever done it before I assigned it. And though some were reluctant to try it, most were transformed by the journaling process and the clarity it can give and provide about important things. And this is what we're talking about tonight, journaling, but with a twist, a law of attraction twist. To show the power of journaling as a way to live life in your greatness zone, I'm joined by Dr. Michael Pearlman, a well-known Boston area psychiatrist and personal life strategist. Throughout his own journey, he has used journaling as a way of gaining clarity and insight and looking at a deeper level as a way of listening to his soul. This work eventually led him to developing the law of attraction journaling. This approach provides a direct route to self-realization for those willing to reveal their thinking, reframe it, and thereby change their consciousness and external reality. So in this episode, we'll be introduced to Dr. Pearlman's personal story, his 4 steps of the law of attraction journaling, and the value it has for our lives. We'll review how this process helps us discover and live our greatness by discovering and attracting the things that we desire most in our lives. So, Dr. Pearlman, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be on your show.
Well, my first question frequently for my guest is, because our conversation is around greatness, so we talk about greatness and living a life in our greatness zone. So I like asking all of our guests, what does greatness mean to you?
For me, it's the question, what have we done with the garden we've been given? And it has to do with not being saved in this life, but being spent. And the more we come to terms with that, as Moses meeting the burning bush, that experience in our lives, the more we become clear of what our essence is about. And as opposed to going to sleep with your song never sung, with your never realizing what your heart desires. So those people who are blessed and to awaken for whatever means they do that, to become a light, have a fire lit within them, and reveal what they're here to do, what they're here to create. Those are expressions of greatness.
I love that. One of my favorite quotes is Frederick Buechner's quote, and he says, your vocation or your purpose in life is where your greatest joy meets the world's greatest need. And to me, that kind of gets at that definition of greatness, that we all come packaged with some amazing abilities and some amazing essence that the world is hoping and waiting for us to discover it and bring it.
Or Jay, we don't. Each of us has within us either the calling to find that light within ourselves and set our lives aflame so that we show the light as we're meant to show it and express it, or it's not our time. And we leave the life with that song unsung, with our flame unlit. And that's
I know
the truth.
This is really personal for you because this process isn't just an academic process. It's something that's guided the way you've thought about how life is for you, how it's unfolded for you, and how you've discovered your own intrinsic greatness. So can you share a little bit about why this is so personal for you?
Well, I would tell my patients, those I get to know, that I'm a genius, I'd say, and they look at me like I'm going off the rails. And I say, oh, yes, I am. Let me tell you, I'm a genius. I'm brilliantly gifted at discerning when I'm uncomfortable. And I laugh. And that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's me being clear as a child and on through my life that there is something more. There is delight and joy and some kind of message or beingness for me. And yet, through iterations of various discomfort and pain, but I held to the hope that I did want to connect with what was highest and best in me. I didn't know what that would meant, but there I was. So I was pulled along, bouncing with highs and lows, but always drawn towards, I want to get somewhere and do it. And even though I got knocked down, I'd pick myself up and keep on moving. And that doesn't sound like, but it's probably nothing more like a dumb animal. It gets down, gets up, gets down, gets up. And that's my expression, but I got clearer and clearer as to what my purpose is and was and what it's meant to do so that I can speak to it today, to bring others to this awakening, to that burning bush experience, or to that experience of taking charge of their life and knowing who and what they are. Why that happened, how it happened, it's like I've changed in so many ways in transformation. I don't remember what I was thinking 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago, let alone 20 or 30, but there it was. Before I became a genius, Jay, I was a drudge, a fool. I'm much less of a fool today, but
it's amazing when we connect with our inner greatness, how the world opens up and how we might show up to it. It's funny when I was sharing the process of journaling with my college, so I teach college freshmen in entrepreneurship and business, and so they looked at this and were utterly amazed that I would even ask them to do something like this.
Yes.
So help us understand a little bit about journaling and your perception of it, both, academically, how you have used it with your patients, and then how it's been kind of this formula for discovering and, developing an access or pathway to this inner greatness, or to basically we'll talk about how it links to this law of attraction.
It came with several leaps and bounds. One is I was, as a young psychiatrist, I couldn't understand what my patients were saying. They were just giving me headaches. And until I could finally say, wait a minute, let me write down what you're saying. And I did write it down, and they said, no, it's this, I'm saying that, and saying this. And somewhere we'd get to the end of this, yes, that's what I really feel. Oh, my God. And in that moment, clarity emerged. It's nothing more complicated than that I saw the pathway. Each of us is like a philosopher's stone, if you like, or has within us a burning bush. It doesn't matter, or the crucifixion resurrection motif. And it has to do with breaking down and organizing our own thinking, and even our thinking about what went on today, what we want, what we don't want. So once we got clear of what was bubbling within us, we had a way to organize it and capture it and simply clarify what we wanted, what we didn't want, and things started to move for me regarding law of attraction and the law of attraction journaling. It's simply clarifying what the heck you think about. Can you imagine that? You don't have to go and read someone else and learn this and memorize that. You start looking at what your heart is saying and what your ego, your fearfulness is also saying. Both are valid. However, you start to rise more and more in the clarity. You said something, our greatness. I don't see it as my greatness. I see that any greatness that it comes to me or is expressed in others is allowance of the divine, call it what you will, pouring through us. It has nothing to do with Michael. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I look back on the most significant events in my life, and I realized that I was, I'll maybe say channeling, but I am connecting to something far larger than me.
Yes.
For the wisdom that happened at that moment, or for the insight that happened that sometimes I look back and say, what would I know about things like that? And then in the very next moment I say, well, why wouldn't someone like me, someone connected to their inner greatness or that higher being,
yes,
be there for that?
Well, I'm perfectly content that the identity, Michael, is somewhat of a fool, less of a fool, or more comfortable in this life. But there's so much more to us, and in that way, all of us join in that, let's say, that connection to that higher being. And the more we allow our vehicle to be used as that expression, I think the more greatness we have, the more light we shed.
So most of what I'd like to talk about tonight, Michael, is because you have this amazing process, and I'm kind of a process person.
Yes.
And one of the things that I really like is trying to make greatness practical, if that's even remotely possible. That I don't want it to be just this esoteric discussion that people feel is removed from them, but it's theirs. They own it. They can touch it. This is how they show up to it. So in your experience, just help us understand a little bit, and I'd be glad to offer my insight on it too. What's the apprehension that people have with journaling? Because you're going to share a really big, great process after our break.
They have to tell
why
the
have they
truth.
stopped?
They have to tell the truth about what the heck they're thinking about, even if that reveals something unpleasant, unacceptable about themselves. And at the same time, as they start to explore the limited, fearful aspect of who and what they are, like that patient, a clarity emerges. And sometimes that clarity, that light, is terrifying for people. It's as though an astronaut sort of suspended in space, not anchored to anything. For the ego, it's a terrifying leap. And so they go back into their cave again. So to reveal the thoughts of what you're thinking, looking at it from different perspectives, will open up a path to your light, your clarity, your knowingness, beyond your words, beyond the ego, beyond the constructs of thinking. And for the average person, it's a terrifying prospect. For those people that are in that zone of being uncomfortable, I guess the best expression is those people who've discovered themselves to be alcoholic or addicted in some crisis know that they can no longer continue with that identity, so that many, not as many as we'd like, want to get rid of that. In other words, they're ready to enter into the cocoon, so to speak, and allow a transformation to open up to something else. Most people are very content to continue their own character, their delusion of who and what they are.
So we're going to take a look at the actual steps of this to give people some guidance around that. This is Jay Forte. We are living life in the greatness zone. Today we have Dr. Michael Pearlman with us, talking with us about the law of attraction, journaling, a great topic and a practical topic. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What does your vivid life look like? What does it feel like to be living a vivid life every single day? How do you start? What is the first step for you personally to finally make the shift you have been seeking? Find out right now by connecting with us on Facebook and on Twitter. My Vivid Life. Well, it's a state of being, complete well-being. Get there today with daily inspiration right to your inbox.
You were born great. You have amazing talents, strengths, passions, and interests. Though born great, you didn't get an owner's manual to know how to discover, develop, and live your greatness. Many people never connect to what is best in them. Jay Forte's book, The Greatness Zone, and powerful workshop, Life Possibilities, share a successful process to guide you to discover and live your abilities at any age. A lifetime greatness formula. Go to thegreatnesszone.com to discover your greatness today.
Celebrate! Are you ready to do something completely amazing for yourself? Spend a weekend with some of the world's most renowned and powerful spiritual teachers? Nourish your soul, enrich your life, honor your spirit, and celebrate you at a Celebrate Your Life conference. Attend powerful, life-changing workshops that will bring you more love, healing, and transformation than you can possibly imagine. Register now. Visit www.celebrateyourlife.org. That's www.celebrateyourlife.org.
Vivid Life Radio connects you with the most current, optimistic, and inspiring information on the planet. Get ready to open your mind, heal your heart, and start living your ultimate life. Go to vividlife.me. That's vividlife.me for more details on our upcoming broadcast with the world's brightest minds, sharing wisdom to uplift your spirit.
Hey, it's Jay Forte. Welcome back. Tonight we are talking with Dr. Michael Pearlman. We are talking about the law of attraction journaling In the first part of our show, we got introduced to Dr. Pearlman to explain a little bit about how this came about for him. And now this second half of the show, what I'd really like to do is to get into the details of journaling. Journaling is such a powerful process, and his particular way of journaling is even more remarkable. So, Michael, let me pass it right back to you. Give us an overview of what Law of Attraction journaling is about, including its 4 steps.
Well, first of all, it's about you. It's about any individual person that wants to, whether they understand Law of Attraction or not, or is tuned into it, to get what they really want. And this is a way where you simply look at what is going on in your life, and we have, through our journal, it's online, it's interactive, and we give guidance. It's completely free at this point. And we advise or teach, especially, we want people to learn several steps of approaching their journal, of approaching their, let's say, sacred space of what they're thinking, and make it work as though it's their challenge in this life, as though they're dealing with their burning bush experience. So.
Great. So one of the things that I found in dealing with my students, and I'll just keep referring back because these were a group or a class of students who looked at the concept of journaling and just shook their head and said it's not anything we do. And the ability to transform it out of whatever their stereotype of it was into a really productive process to create space, to access wisdom, to tune in, then became a really powerful tool in order to manage the life and the careers that they wanted.
Once you come to truth, your truth, about what's going on with you, and we use the 4 steps, and let me start with this first step, is simply appreciating contrast, is simply starting to tell the truth about what feels good and what doesn't feel good about your life. And you have to do it by writing it down. You cannot let it wash over your head. It's like changing deck chairs in the Titanic. You need to write it down, step back and look at it, and tell the truth. That feels good, that feels bad. That's the first step. And we have different fields for that information as you get second step, being clear about what it is that's uncomfortable, unwanted. And you get to realize your truth. It's not about anything you've read or not. It's something you go inside to experience your situation. It's your truth. At the same time, okay, once you're clear about that, what would I like to have? And you start to open up. And as you stay with that, let's say that trail, that red thread of what's going on with you. Now, you don't have to keep following the same, let's say, conversation. As you go back to it day to day, erase it and then come back and start again, because your soul is recalling what the issues were. It gets quicker and faster and clearer to discern contrast, to be clear, and as that clarity grows of what's wanted and what's not wanted, that third step, you start opening up to how you'd really like things to be, what you prefer, what you want, and you become more and more, let's say, vibrationally matched with that higher consciousness, with simply, call it love, call it knowing, call it being, calling a sense of freedom, joy. The words don't matter. It's that you know you're in that zone.
Right.
And things become fresh and clear and open for you.
Right. You know, I find journaling to be a remarkable process, and I was a holdout on it probably until about 5 years ago, when it was introduced to me in a similar way, that it was a logical, progressive process that allowed you to create time and space for the things that really matter. And that was, I think, the reason why it had such appeal for me, is that, you know, I had a life that was busy but wasn't going anywhere. And what it needed was the ability to stop and notice, and in the noticing, to create a conversation with the inner and bigger self that had information that just wasn't allowed to ever share it.
Well, the journaling, what you think and feel, moment to moment, has been a continuous thread through your life since you were born. You started to, tune into this life's experience. It's always been calling. It's like a forgotten song, and then you start to pay attention by writing down this thought, this situation, or your environment, your relationships, your work, your purpose. It doesn't matter what the boss said or your ex-girlfriend said or your ex. It doesn't matter. You start there, and you reveal the truth. That felt good, that felt bad. But the journal's fields help separate that. So you start to get a contrast that you're not a human being trying to become spiritual. You're a spiritual being having a human experience, and you become more and more grounded in that knowing of that spiritual beingness, whatever words you use to describe it. But it's not for me to offer, the pat answers. It's about you finding your answers within your language, what you write, what you think about, and you put it down, and you get clearer and clearer until you start to know yourself, who you are, and what you're here for.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, there's so much power in the way that you say that we're accountable for showing up big to our own life, and that none of these processes are designed to help you determine what it is that, or guide you to be something in particular. It's to invite you into the self-discovery process to find out what's going on.
And Jay, sometimes the worst experience, the suffering, your addiction, your crime, your guilt, your shame about this thing or that thing, or your failings or depression, that is the fire. As that gets put down, as you get clear about that, and you start to see it, what happens sooner or later, it opens up to, wait a minute, what is this? And you start to see it as the path for you, the burning bush for you, the crucifixion experience for you. But it's holding on to it. Don't let it go. Stay with it. But more especially, you're opening up to something bigger and larger, and that takes over, and that becomes more preferential.
Do you generally find that an event like a significant event, a trauma, something of epic proportion brings people to considering some of these tools and this great wisdom that's always been in front of us, but for some reason it hadn't gotten our attention yet?
Yes, some people are graced to quicken. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. If you're in an Alcoholics Anonymous movie, they feel grateful they're alcoholics. Why? Well, because it brought them to the realization there's more to life than their crazy limited living and being, and on the level of simple that identity. They're liberated. Now, anyone looking at them think they're mad as hatters. They probably are, but they're free.
Well, I think that's it. This is the way that we start to shift out of listening to our noisy and pushy world and starting to truly trust our own voice. And it seems to be a hard thing to hear our own voice among all the muck and the mire of all the noise.
But that's the only thing you have to attend to. Whose else's voice can you listen to? You have to listen to what you think, what you feel, and the steady-on progress of clarifying that, of appreciating the contrast, good feelings, bad feelings, writing that down, being clearer and clearer. And in that clarity, you suddenly start to say, I want more of that. And what is that? And it expands and opens up, and you start to be more and more grounded in that disposition of being happy, joyous, free, loving, and know yourself as that. Or you can sit quietly and enjoy the serene moment, whatever the circumstances.
Well, it's amazing that sitting in quiet is such a hard thing for us. That being in the calm, being in the silence. You can't be in a car without the noise or connected to your phone.
Sure.
That what it does is it interrupts our ability to tune into the thing that matters most.
And the journaling interrupts that seeking mind, because at some point you start to write what you're thinking, the mind fails. It's just a machine. It's just a radio going on, and you start to see, well, all right, what else to say? At some point, you just turn the field of the journal and say, well, okay, well, how would I like things to be? What would I like to have? And then you've opened up to it. But if you trace your thinking in your journal, it will lead you, not because of your mind, you're seeing the crazy thinking mind, but by boxing it in, then you have a space that opens up, and you get to know yourself as that space.
I love that, Michael. We're going to wind down here very quickly now, so I would really love it if you would share how our listeners can connect with you.
Absolutely. Through Law of Attraction Journaling, LAW of Attraction, ATTRACTION, journaling, JOURNALING.com. We have a online interactive journal. You have to sign up. Just give your email address. It's completely confidential. We have coaching Thursdays for Law of Attraction journaling at Thursdays 5 p.m. Eastern Time, all free. And we're available to help you. We have a Facebook group. Join the group. We get prompts and information there. We're really working to help people teach us what we need to learn so we can help them learn this valuable process of using law of attraction to get what they really want via telling the truth about what they think about.
Brilliant. I just love it. It's a wonderful and a very powerful site. I encourage all our listeners to go to it. Let me wind us down here, Michael. Our noisy and pushy world can really derail us from the lives that we love, from being in our greatness zone. Journaling, particularly the law of attraction journaling, provides this structured and effective way to tune in at a deeper level, to discover what you want most in life, and to develop the ways to bring it in being. Michael, thank you very much for your wisdom and your generosity.
Thank you, Jay, for this opportunity to share this with you and your audience.
Thank you. Thank you again. Next week, we have another amazing guest. We talk to motivational speaker and epic life inspirer Steve Gamlin. You'll hear about his focus to include service in our lives and in being a hero for others. His stories are amazing, and he'll get you on the Be a Hero bandwagon. When it comes to life, he has one speed, and it's inspired greatness. So join us. Until next time, this is Jay Forte, living life in the Greatness Zone.
Thanks for listening to The Greatness Zone on VividLife.me, a show committed to helping you discover and live your greatness. Tune in each week because we continue to share practical ways to help you live a bigger, bolder, and better life. To know yourself, find your fit, and transform our world. You were born great. You have amazing talents, strengths, passions, and interests. Though born great, you didn't get an owner's manual to know how to discover, develop, and live your greatness. Many people never connect to what is best in them. Jay Forte's book, The Greatness Zone, and powerful workshop, Life Possibilities, share a successful process to guide you to discover and live your abilities at any age. A lifetime greatness formula. Go to thegreatnesszone.com to discover your greatness today.
Life Radio connects you with the most current, optimistic, and inspiring information on the planet. Get ready to open your mind, heal your heart, and start living your ultimate life. Go to vividlife.me. That's vividlife.me for more details on our upcoming broadcast with the world's brightest minds, sharing wisdom to uplift your spirit.